So, seeing nothing else, motion passes, meeting's approved. So moving on to the next agenda item, citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. Is there anything at all? Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Walter Evans, director of Shihan School of Survival, and I received the grant that was given out to the community to opera. I'm not sure I get tongue-tied when it comes to opera and code, whatever, but I received a small operational grant. Actually, it was specific to youth. Since then, I've been maintaining that class, free class to the public, including uniforms. I was able, first of all, to give my appreciation and gratitude for the grant, because I was able, with that grant, to set up my home office with the file cabinets and my accountant for my organization, 501c3, secure basically my organization with those funds. And I also, from the North Greenwood Recreation Center's free class on Wednesdays at 5:30, I also have a class at the West Coast School of Human Development with 17 students there on a weekly basis. That's on a Thursday. And very good group, it's a very disciplined group. I wish you could see them. They benefit so much for just my presence being there. And I wouldn't be able to be there sharing my martial arts skills, focus, development for these youth if I did not receive the grant. Also, the grant was specific to youth, but I started a sitting Tai Chi class for seniors through other funds. And there's every Thursday, second Thursday of the month, we meet for a senior sitting Tai Chi group. And I put them in t-shirts, so now we have a seniors Tai Chi club in North Greenwood. And we have a lunch after. This has been a consistent seniors aspect of my organization, what we've been doing. I just wanted to stand up and show you my gratitude and appreciation for the help that you've given me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Definitely love to hear it. I myself studied martial arts for about 10 years, so I definitely understand the importance of it. So thank you for the work that you do.
Okay.
Awesome. Is there anyone else that would like to? Okay. Seeing none. Moving on to new business. We have a housing presentation on affordable housing and community development.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How about you?
Awesome. Thank you.
I had designed a PowerPoint, but there's no way to show it, so it's attached to the agenda item there.
Alrighty.
So I'll kind of make a clicking motion when it's time to turn. My name is Dylan May. I'm the acting housing manager. I have a few of my team here. Terry Malcolm Smith. She's kind of our in-house underwriter, expert. You name it. She's the boss. And then Danya over there. Danya is one of our housing coordinators. And I lead a team of 7, so Terry, Danya, Kara also assists Terry, and she does the DPA and rehab program, residential rehab program. DPA is down payment assistance. And Irene is our CVG administrator. She helps run the public services program. And Jessica Chuka, she's not here tonight, but she also assists Danya and Irene with the public services. And then finally Gabe, he's our boots on the ground. He's kind of like our in-house inspector. And so we're gonna click to slide 2. Our department has multiple plans. The first I'm gonna go over is our 5-year consolidated plan. That obviously includes objectives and goals, and those are related to housing, homelessness, special needs, community development, and economic development. And some examples include subsidy funding to developers for multifamily property, legally restricted affordable housing, funding opportunities for nonprofit services and facilities, rehab loans and grants for ADA modifications to residences, and then things like facade improvements, funding for facade improvements for commercial applications. And so beyond the consolidated plan, we also have our local housing assistance plan that lays out the city's housing incentive strategy. This includes things like purchase assistance, disaster assistance, incentives that will assist developers in developing affordable housing, and then incentives that are non-funded, so basically like expedited permitting process, impact fee reductions, or we also have grants for impact fees as well, and then direct benefits such as funding and land. Clicking. So where does our funding come from? It's a variety of sources. So the federal government provides subsidy funding in the form of a community development block grant. That can be used for affordable housing development, cure of slum and blight, and then public services. HOME, or the Home Investment Partnership Program, is another federal funding source that can fund a wide range of activities. So building, buying, rehabbing affordable housing units, either for rent or for home ownership. Kind of an offshoot of that one is going to be the Home ARP. That came out during the, due to the American Rescue Plan, and that assists with individuals or households that are either homeless or at risk of being homeless. And now, both of those funding sources are limited to 80% of area median income, and to be honest with you, most of our funding is restricted to 80%. A very small bucket, 80 to 120. The state also provides us with funding, SHIP funding, so State Housing Initiative Partnership Program. Say that 10 times fast. And that provides funds to local governments to incentivize, again, development of affordable housing and multifamily housing. We also have local funds that can assist with our mission. The Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund assists with capital in exchange for land ownership. General fund is used in certain circumstances. CRA funds, of course, are used for the development of affordable housing. And then we also have ARPA funds, which we're almost through at this point. It's the American Rescue Plan Act. And again, can be used for affordable housing development, among other things.
Excuse me, Dylan, I'm so sorry.
Sure.
Which slide are you on? You're not doing it from the slide, okay.
Yeah,
Just
not
want
really.
to follow you, I can generally.
Slide
okay.
3.
No problem, yeah, I was,
Slide 3 under funding.
my apologies,
Yeah.
continue, yes.
Get ahead.
I don't know what a head is, that's what I'd ask.
You know what? It's important to note with these funds. So in-house we monitor all the funding as required by the funding source. A lot of funding regs, and we have to monitor all the loans and things that go out. So we do that in-house. We're gonna switch to the next slide. So our goals, we have a multitude of goals. I'll go over some of them. One of them being improving the quality of aging housing stock. And the way we do that is we provide 0% interest loans to low-income homeowners to repair their homes. It's a rehab program that we have in the city. Another goal is to increase and preserve the availability of affordable housing. This could mean funding a single-family home development with a 0% interest construction loans repaid when the property sells to a homeowner, or it could mean participating in a funding stack for a larger multifamily project. When working with a larger project, we do leverage our funds against private investment, usually commercial banks, and also state and county funds. That allows us to get a bigger bang for our buck. We get more units for our money than if we were just a sole investor. We also assist homeowners and potential homeowners to buy property, to buy their first home with down payment assistance up to $75,000. Rehab loans, which include modifications to accommodate disabilities up to $60,000, and then assistance in disaster situations. I'll kind of come back to that at the end. We'll go to the next slide. So all these strategies on the slide here, and organizations work together to enhance the community and increase the standard of living. So on our side, with our products or programs, our commercial facade grant helps to address slum and blight. The public facilities and service programs help to fund improvements to public facilities and fund social services throughout the city. We'll go to the next slide. So the department also works and provides funding to organizations such as HEP or SVDP, St. Vincent de Paul, to provide homeless services and housing throughout the city. The city has implemented a housing task force and to help address the homeless problem. This helps to avoid situations of arrest, instead referring the unhoused to social services and resources. Housing First was implemented by HUD, I think like 20 years ago, mandating, or during George Bush Sr.? No, George Bush Jr. So yeah, somewhere in the 2000s. And basically what it is, mandates the prioritization of providing immediate and permanent housing to people experiencing homelessness. It removes the barriers such as sobriety and criminal history, and offers support to help individuals keep them in their home. Next slide. This is probably my favorite slide. So what did we do last year? These are our accomplishments. We originated 19 down payment assistance loans, 10 residential rehab loans, 13 single family home construction loans. We closed an 81 unit tax credit project on Cleveland Street, which is currently under construction. It's Clearwater Gardens. And we provided $292,765 in grant funds to 11 nonprofits to provide services to low-income residents and the homeless. We provided $1,675,939 in grant funding for 15 facility improvement projects. The city also provided $300,000 in general fund to 9 organizations. Those organizations deal with homelessness. And then council also approved the acquisition of Indigo Apartments for a developer to purchase it. It's a total of 207 units. It's going to be restricted to 80% AMI. We're participating with about $1 million between CDBG and SHIP funds into that project, and we're on track to close that before the end of May. The last page there has my contact information, but before I close, after Hurricane Helene and Milton, the staff got together and we paused all of our programs and developed a disaster relief program. And the program is now live. It covers the following things: insurance deductible payments, rental assistance, emergency repairs to shore up damaged houses, reimbursement of emergency supplies, and inspections to determine life safety concerns and scope of work. The big one there is insurance deductibles. So if you know of anyone looking or that has damage to their home due to the hurricane, we want to hear from them. Have them call into our department, and we'd be happy to help. So with that, be happy to address any questions.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions?
I do have a question, but I think I kind of know the answer, because what I've heard from a number of people is that maybe some of those who did experience damage to their homes, the hurricane, were so frustrated with the process with FEMA not being able to, get through in a timely manner, or they were denied. I know if they were denied, then of course they would be eligible to
Right.
pursue this
Yes.
one. But for those who just gave up, though they had damage, is there any other way for them to prove that it happened during the storm?
Yeah, so we reached out to, so we're funding that program with SHIP funds, again, state funding. So we reached out to the state organization that runs SHIP, and that is the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. And they did give us approval to fund those applications, as long as they have to have something from their insurance company still.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll sign an agreement basically stating that if they do get funding from FEMA, then they have to pay us back with whatever they got, whatever the difference is between what they received from us and what FEMA provided.
Gotcha. So then that tells me also, if they didn't file it with their insurance company, because a lot of times people are afraid to do that because the insurance company will cancel them. So
Yeah.
there are some people who are within that place, and so that means they're pretty much out of luck at this point, as far as this particular grant is concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. I will communicate that. Thank you.
I have one on, you had a slide that showed the funding sources. Off the top of your head, what are the biggest pools of money there?
Biggest pools of money, it just depends on the year. With home funding, that's one funding source that we can stack year to year.
Yeah.
So as far as what the city actually has in its coffers right now, that's the biggest amount of that, and probably CDBG, right, the two.
Well, normally for the state funding, we receive over $1 million.
Yeah.
for-
But just in general, like how much do we have right now? We have to expend all the state funds basically on a
Yeah,
yearly
home,
basis.
the home program.
Yeah, so home we can save up, and usually what will happen with home is we'll stack that for multiple years, and then when a large project comes, then we can participate at a higher.
Yeah.
higher amount.
When I was thinking about these sources of funding that you have, which is the biggest? Which is the one that you really like to go after for getting money?
The state.
The state, do they automatically allocate money to you every year, or do you have to go and apply for it
No,
based on need?
it's allocated to us every, now there are requirements, we have to report a certain way with it, we have to go through an AHAC process
Yeah.
with it, but yeah, it's.
Okay, all right, thanks.
The reason why I said the state is because it's less restrictive.
Okay,
Federal funds, you have to go through certain requirements.
Yeah.
Section 3, Buy America, Build America on certain projects.
That's a big one.
Yeah, the state is straight. You use the
Yeah,
money
they wear
to
you
keep the
down.
population.
Yeah. At least.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so unfortunately, our next presentation won't be taking place tonight. Cindy from Florida Prepaid, she's not feeling well, and she's actually she would have been driving down from Tallahassee today to present to us, but she said that she's not going to be able to make it. So I did tell her that I will let her know of our next meeting date, so that way she could be here to provide a presentation, because I feel that it's valuable information for the community to have. With that said, our next presenter is here. Jose Bello is representing Encore Bank, and he put together a presentation for us to talk about the bank's efforts in their community development.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kennard, and thank you everyone for your time and for bearing with me. I too put together a PowerPoint, and Kennard did tell me to bring copies, and in the rush to leave the office to tend to a sick dog, I left them on the copier, so I will have some paper to recycle, but I did talk to Ann, and I'll get you the whole presentation. So I'm going to cover, my wife says that Cubans can't say it in 8,000 words or less, so I'm going to try. So I'm going to try to stay way under that and go through. I got a lot of information for you, but I think one of the things that I hope you get from tonight is, number one, is that we're a local bank with a good presence, especially with a CRA presence. I'm the CRA officer for the bank, so this is what I do all day, every day in Hillsborough and Pinellas County. So I'm very familiar. I grew up in the CRA space, and so I know a lot about it, also not only on the home side, but on the business side. So I'm going to cover the Community Reinvestment Act, quick history about Encore, the programs that we have specific to the CRA area, some programs in the home mortgage and other programs in businesses. And then there's a subset of that, which is as a partner. Like, I can totally see us connecting with Dylan and working with his group, because we're trying to accomplish the same thing. So why not work together to do that? And then real quick on what to expect when you're buying a home and what to expect when you're looking for a banking relationship. And then at the end, I had a Q&A, but I think I'm going to eat up all the time, so you can Q&A me either through the committee or directly, however they want. And if you don't mind, I'll leave my cards. I can, and then folks can just reach out with whatever. So as Kennard said, Jose Bello, and Encore Bank Community Outreach Officer. And in the interest of full disclosure, just recently Kennard became a client of the bank. We had been talking about doing this, me getting up in front of the group, long before that.
Yeah.
So that was, we were on a business trip together, sat next to each other, and had nothing to talk about except business. So we talked about business, and he said CRA, and I said, oh my goodness, that's what I do. And then, here I am. So I thank him for that. So it's important out of the gates, everyone, to know that Encore has a focus, especially in my world, to provide affordable housing opportunities for low and moderate income census tracts, right? And there's a lot of different ways we figure out those census tracts. And then also, not only housing, but also business opportunities for small businesses in low to moderate income census tracts. And census tracts can be really funny sometimes because they're smaller than zip codes. So as I shared with Kennard when we toured the CRA here, and just like in our office, I can be on this side of the street and it's a middle or upper income home or business, and right across the street, there could be a low to moderate. So it really just depends on how people answer the census when someone comes from the government and knocks on your door, if you're even willing to open the door. right? Nowadays, we kind of stand down for that. But it's important for us to do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, a lot of us at the bank did come from CRA areas, so we understand that back when we were around, there wasn't really that kind of help. But also the government, we're audited every year by the government, and they take a look at our activity, they take a look at our loans, they take a look at our flyers, our programs, to make sure that we adhere to the CRA Act, which is the Community Reinvestment Act. And if you didn't know, just a bit of trivia, the Community Reinvestment, the CRA Act came about in 1977. And that was a result of many banks, unfortunately, going into low and moderate income census tracts that were already there and not providing them the opportunity to borrow or to even bank. So, and you probably heard the terms, you know, certainly discrimination, but also redlining or red circling, right? So the government tells us, yeah, it's great that you want to do the right thing, but not only are you going to do that, we're going to every year look inside the bank under the hood and make sure that you are offering that opportunity. And of course, if you don't, we can get in a lot of trouble. And we could be fined, people can go to jail, we can be made to build the branch in a community, which is extremely expensive. So that's important about us. Talked about the Community Reinvestment Act. So this is what we'll cover. I talked about that. So starting with home mortgages, there's several different programs that we have. And without getting into too much of the detail, I will tell you that those programs, the dynamics and the cool thing about them is that they do a couple things. Number one is some programs provide 100% financing to the homeowner for homes up to $550,000. So that means that we're financing the entire amount. You would not have to have a down payment. You know, I know some of this might be, some of the people in business might not be looking at the home thing, or some of the people at home might be looking at the business thing, so I'm gonna try to talk about it all as a whole. The other thing that we do for those low to moderate census tracts is we recognize that there are contributing members in those communities that may not be US citizens for whatever reason. You know, we don't judge that. We do have a program that if you're not a US citizen and don't have a social security number and you have a government identification number and you're legally working, you're legally allowed to work, and you're paying taxes, it's called an I-10 program, I-T-I-N, and we can also provide that.
Real quick,
Yeah.
For the homeowners, for the people in the census tract, your portfolios, do they have to pay for
PMI?
PMI?
No, you're right in stride with me, and if I had my slideshow, you would have seen, but yeah, that's one of the dynamics of that program is for the loan that provides 100% financing up to $550,000 of a home. There is no PMI insurance. So when you get into buying a home for the first time, or even the first time in a long time, you run into a lot of expenses that you know, inspection, title, insurance, and so the PMI is something that you don't pay in that environment.
And then that's the only product you have was 100% LTV. What about, like, do you also offer a down payment?
Yeah, so you don't have to execute the 100%, you can buy down your rate if you had down payment. And for the down payment, one of the things I have on here is the HELP Fund, which is Home Equity Leverage Program. So we've partnered, like many other banks around the country, with the Federal Bank of Dallas, and they provide a certain tranche of money every year. I think this year was like $8 million total. And if you're a partner with that bank, that means that you get designated a certain amount. So I can tell you the first quarter, we had about $750,000 to deploy to homeowners as a grant up to $20,000. So it's a grant, so you don't pay it back. But if you're in a program where you need a down payment, or you may not qualify for the 100% financing, you can get up to $20,000.
One more question.
Yeah, sure.
What is your mid-score for that?
So the credit scores, we have different ones, but typically you're looking at about 640.
640, okay.
Yeah, and so one of the things that's important for me, just like my parents, I had no idea about credit score, neither did they didn't even speak English. When we run into a prospect that's looking to buy a home, they may see a commercial, hear about it here, or however they get to us, right? A lot of times they're frightened because they're afraid of what's in their background, right? And the first thing I tell them is, look, first you have to understand, just like me, bad things happen to good people, but there's a way to fix that. right? So my role is to kind of hold, if they're under 640, is to try to hold their hand through the process of the next year or so, or 6 months, however we can get them in a program, not sponsored by the bank, just different ones in different places that we've seen help people bring up their scores.
Yeah, we have counselors that does that.
Yeah, and that, I'd love to talk to you about that, because we're always looking for new partners to work with folks. And, you know, you can wreck a score pretty easily, but you can also bring it up if you do the right things. Yeah, and that's a great question. It also impacts on the business side when you go to get a loan, and I'll talk about that in a minute, the requirements might be a little lower. So, yeah, so there's also, I said interest rate buy down, so sometimes you can, you know, instead of putting in a down payment, it's like a down payment, but your interest rate is lower for the first year or two, and then it goes up. And sometimes people need that
Well,
because.
those are adjustables. but
Yeah,
they do
well,
fix.
if you do a fix, right, so, or an adjustable, so that way, if you know you're in a business and it's gonna be doing better 2 or 3 years from now, that might be an option. But the one thing that we do with our prospects and clients and folks is we always make sure that we look at several options, right? Because one size does not fit all. And that's why one of the things that I was gonna talk about was what to expect when you either get a business line of credit, a business loan, small business line of credit, small business loan, or even a mortgage. So I always encourage the folks that I talk to, whether they come to me directly or through realtors or however, is let's fill out a mortgage application without checking the credit, right? Without hitting the credit report, because you don't want to get dinged on that. And then what we find is we find all the things that could be a problem if you go to try to get a mortgage. And then we try to fix them before we try to get a mortgage. And a lot of times they're pleasantly surprised. Sometimes they're, you know, disturbingly surprised, but ultimately is we got to fix those things. The way that I always describe my relationship with the community and the bank is that I'm trying to sell you on why our bank is a good option, but I'm also trying to sell the credit department on why you are a good option for the bank. And that's one of the things, I say it this way, is that, you know, going through an application for a home mortgage or a line of credit in business or a line of credit or a loan in business, it's like a medical exam, except the only thing that hurts is your ego, because you really got to talk about some things in the past that aren't great. But you know what? You'd be hard pressed if you didn't find at least one person in our bank. We have about 300 associates in our nation's footprint that didn't have some experience of catastrophe. So, yeah, I mean, those things happen all the time, and we get that. I mean, just look at 2 years ago. The Fed rate went up, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Wages were flat or down. The economy wasn't that great, so inflation was up, and that works directly against the folks in the CRA area or the low to moderate income.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Also, debt to credit ratio, because that's what, a lot of times they may have a okay credit score, they may have even down payment assistance, but it's that debt to
Yeah,
credit ratio.
we will look at that, and some of these programs have specific requirements. I don't have them memorized because they'll pop up.
But it is there is
Yeah,
some flexibility.
yes, it is, correct. Okay, so you know what, I put 7.5 minutes to count down to 15, and it accidentally put 7 hours and 30 minutes, so
All
I'm sorry
good.
about that, I
All
won't go
good.
that long.
All good.
You guys, I'm probably the only thing standing between you and seeing your family, same here. So, so I would say who can benefit from this? Buyers that are looking for homes and minority, majority, low to moderate income census tracts. The government looks at the majority percentage as 50.01 or higher. So if you're in a neighborhood and it has 50% minorities, that is not a minority. It has to be 50.01. And so at the end of the day, what the government was telling the banks in 1977 is like, look, you just cannot bank rich white guys only. And we're gonna make sure that you don't do that, because we're gonna fine you if you don't go along with our program. So also buyers that have limited funds, so that's good. Buyers that don't have a valid social security number for whatever reason. And then in some of these programs, you do have to be a first-time home buyer, and others you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. And our limit is 3 years. So if you bought a home 4 years ago, and you no longer own it, you'd be outside of that, so it would be considered a first-time home again. That changes from time to time with banks. We talked about so there's a debt-to-income ratio of 33 to 43, no PMI. Minimum score is 640, so that's good. And the I-10 is just about the same. So on the business side, there's a couple of things on the business side with some really great programs that we have. So you can do a line of credit or a loan for as low as $3,500 up to about $250,000 if you have less than $1 million revenue, if you're in an LMI, census tract. So a lot of times what we find is, in the folks that I work with, is a beauty salon or a barbershop needs a chair, or a washer dryer, or a garage needs a mechanic needs a refrigerator or something like that. So a lot of times with a line of credit versus, and that's the other thing that we'll do, is we'll sit with you and figure out what you're trying to accomplish. So it's really important that we have this long on-ramp to get level, the playing field. And then, because sometimes a loan is really not what you need. You know, once you sign the papers, you start getting billed every month for the loan. But with a line of credit, you only pay on it when you draw on it. So there's a big difference there. Yeah.
Does your bank work with the local nonprofits that deal with small businesses?
Yeah. So Fabian and I we'll go way back. We've worked together in different lives, and any organization that's a not-for-profit that can assist the path through the bank, we may not know all of them. So I'm always looking around. You guys are the best ears and eyes on the street for me. If you know of something, like I didn't know anything about Dylan's program, but here I am I'm writing my thing. I'm like, I got a $20,000 grant that I could get from Dallas, and he's got $75,000. Now I doubt it would turn into 95. It could, but those are the kind of things that we just don't know everything that's out there. So we always encourage that sort of thing. And as you know, with these loans or lines of credit, whether you need payroll, whether you need a new vehicle, service on a vehicle, there's just a lot of different things that you can use them. We do, in the business side, we do ask that you bank with us. We just feel that it's kind of hey, we got skin in the game on the risk. We'd love some skin in the game from you, not only with the mortgage, you're a great program, but deposits are good. As you probably know from your banks, everyone's chasing deposits, and not a lot of people are loaning money. And ironically, the irony of all ironies is that historically, low and moderate census tract loans have been considered higher risk, but we are actually taking more of a look at the low to moderate loans because we want to do that and we have to do that. So that's kind of cool. But that's why we asked that and I think you needed like a minimum of $100 for a checking account or a savings account with us. So it's not like we're asking you to deposit as much money as we're loaning you. That would just make no sense. So 2 things real quick. What to expect when you're buying a home. Hey, anyone ever bought a home? Here, yeah, plenty of times.
Several, yeah.
Yeah, they ask you for everything, right? And it's like, I don't even know what that stuff is. We were destroyed, our house was destroyed 12 miles south by Hurricane Helene. And I'm dealing with FEMA, I'm dealing with a flood claim, I'm dealing with a homeowner's claim, I'm dealing with SBA. Even the bank where I hold my mortgage, our bank, I had to deal with them to do a mortgage forbearance so that I can pay for the RV that's in my yard right now that I'm living in. But to look for papers, I'm like, how do I know? I have 4 feet of water in my house. Some of the stuff was waterproof or not. So, don't be surprised if you get asked for a lot of documents that you don't have, but together we'll work to get them. And it's not that people don't believe you, it's just that we need that to satisfy the credit department. And we work together to get that. On the business side, I would tell you the 3 biggest things we would need is a profit and loss statement, right? We would need tax returns.
What if it's a new business?
So some of these require, we could finance by maybe your POs or your projections. It depends on the program. Yeah, because if you're a new business, some of these loans require just 1 year of tax returns. Some as many as 2. But yeah, that's a great question because we have that all the time. So I'm out on my own for the first time. I got a little building or a little office. How do I give you tax returns? Well, we work through that. But if you're in business for 10 years, we're gonna say, hey, where are the tax returns, right? And then the personal financial statement, which is, as you know, just a form that you fill out and says, this is what I have, this is what I owe, and this is how I look. And of course, the reason we need that is because we just, at the end of the day, all banks, all lenders, whether they're a bank or not, credit union too, they just want to know, when we hand you this money, let's say there's a catastrophic failure, how are you going to service that debt? And how are you going to back up service that debt? So we like to be responsible to our shareholders to make sure that we mitigate our risk. It doesn't mean we don't do high risk products or service. It's just we want to mitigate them. I have in the presentation, when you get it, a couple of resources. One is Encore Bank, of course, totally gratuitous, so that you can go check out our bank. But the other one is this FFIEC website that I use. It's a government website. The link will be in the presentation when you get it. That's how I put in an address, and I figure out what income track they're in, whether it's low, moderate, middle, or upper. And those are the only four. And then I figure out the percentage of minority, majority. So sometimes folks are really close, but it just doesn't qualify for that. But it may qualify for somewhere else. In some cases, you don't have to use both. You could use one or the other. And then also, when it comes to not-for-profits, just so you know, some not-for-profits have a lot of money, and they're in a tower downtown or in some big, nice building. We work with them under the same premise, as long as the ultimate benefactor, whoever's receiving the money to benefit, they're the ones that ultimately, I just have to do a better job with my compliance to narrate that story. So, yes?
Have you heard of the nonprofit called NACA?
I don't think so. I'm a little dyslexic, so if I look at acronyms, it could be CACA. No, but I have not. Yeah, but I'll give you my.
It's the abbreviation is, I know it's national something.
Association, yes. We actually just had a conversation
Oh,
about
yes.
it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but I always say, when I speak to folks, whether it's an individual or a group, I say, something that you've used before or somebody's used, connect me to them, because I'd love to, the more people I work with, the more people I get to, the better we do for the community.
You heard of NACA?
It sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
that'd be
I'm not
awesome,
super-
and I'll give everyone my
I
card.
don't know all the details.
And then Q&A with the last, and that's just more lame stuff about me. You can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. Been in Tampa Bay since 1976, and my twins were born here, and I'll plan on spending the rest of my life as long as you'll have me.
I know that your CRA is different than the government's, like ours.
Yeah.
So what's the income limits for you guys?
So I don't know the income limits. I use the website. It's easier for me. It just processes the address. But that's a really good point, because not all CRAs are created equally. I mean, your CRA in fact, I don't even think it's, what does your CRA stand for? Community Redevelopment?
Area, yeah.
Yeah, and mine is Community Reinvestment Act. But ironically, I deliver against the Community Reinvestment Act to community redevelopment areas. So they're not all created the same. That's why I put the website. If you want to know where you are, whether it's your business or your home, or you're looking for a home, that's a really good resource to have. It's a little clunky. It's a government website, so there's a lot of navigating, but once you figure it out, it's really cool. You can find out where you are, and you'd be surprised. Like I told Kennard this story when we were talking on that trip. It's like, seriously, where our office is on the causeway next to the Rusty Pelican, it's 33607, and it's listed as an upper because down the street there's a condo development that's on the water. But 33607 is also the east side of Raymond James Stadium, which is West Tampa. And if you're familiar with that area, you could run it all the way up to Armenia, and it's CRA, but sometimes on one side of the street it's one thing, the other side of the street is another. I mean, even where I live, there's a couple McMansions that folks have torn down from the parents and build them up. I mean, it's great for property value, but, knocks you out of certain designations. So, all right, I don't even know how long I went. Sorry if I went long. I appreciate you guys. Any other questions? Yes.
So with the different municipalities, like
Yeah.
in Hillsborough, they have Tampa.
Mhm.
Here we have Laurelville, St. Pete, Clearwater.
Yeah.
You've never worked with any of the down payment assistance program?
Yeah, it's by county. So the bank has what they call an assessment area. in that assessment area is where the government looks at us. So right now it's Pinellas and Hillsborough County. So the government looks at every mortgage application and every loan, whether it's executed or not. And then they determine if we did support the CRA space.
Well,
Does that answer your question?
No, your loan.
No, no, no,
your
I-
loan officers. So when
Yeah.
your loan officers are writing, or doing a loan,
Yeah.
and you have your loan processor, do you guys also inform them of the local municipalities, down payment assistance that they have? Do they work together?
Oh, yeah, because one of the things that I'll do is I'll find out where the address is, and then I do a little research to find out if there's anything available. Like,
Okay.
I'm talking from, I always look for the grants because we don't have to pay them back, but some assistance programs are not all what they're cracked up to be because, the backside of them can be, they look great on the inside. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up because the last thing I'll say before I hand out little Encore lip gloss, lip balm for everyone in my cards, is that the challenge that I have going into any CRA or low to moderate income census tract to talk to anybody, and I know this because I experienced this with my parents. Whenever there's a new product or service that's super cool and is gonna fix all your ills, typically those marketers go into the underserved communities because they're in need. Sometimes they're desperate, right? They wanna get out from wherever they are, whatever that is to them. And so if it doesn't work, those companies just pick up and leave and they haul butt and they're left with, I spent $500 to fix my credit and all it did was wreck my credit and I lost $500, right? So I have to go, my day starts with unwinding all the madness that people have heard. And it's a long process to build relationships and CRA areas are typically minority centric. I've been a minority my whole life, so I get it. We're built on trust. And if I don't trust you, you might as well just go talk to the guy across the street, right? But I have to kind of fix those problems in the back end and make commitments that's not what we're here to do, so.
I think we could create a great partnership because you have great products. But when you look at the assistance that the different local governments are going to provide,
Yeah.
you can't beat zero interest.
Right.
So
There's-
if we're coming in with 60,000 or say 40,000 in down payment assistance, that there's no interest attached.
So it wasn't zero interest, it was 0% financing. So like you didn't have to do a down payment, so we'll finance that whole amount. There's an interest rate attached to it.
It's 0% down.
Yeah.
0% down.
They do
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, it's a big, no, 0% interest, that's where I would live.
Well, that's why the partnership would be great
Yeah.
because then we could come in with a down payment at
Yeah.
0%.
Sure, and
He's-
I would, well, if you have a program that has a 0% interest,
That's what we do.
someone, that would be
So our
great for
program
someone
is
that can't afford a home in my program.
It covers the down payment, which yours would be 0%, so there is no down payment.
Right.
It would cover the closing costs, and then I believe we also have a gap. So depending on the debt ratios,
Yeah.
the DTI will determine on the amount for the gap.
Yeah, so you would be, and sometimes folks when they're getting a loan or a line of credit or buying a home, they don't get it, that there's actually a team of folks working because there's a lot of different avenues. I'm not a mortgage lender. My role, I have a mortgage lender partner that I work with. I can talk a lot, I have an MLS number, so I can speak to it, I can present the products and the services. But when it comes to putting someone in the best lane so that they can optimize the value and minimize the investment or the cost, I have several people that do that. And then I bring in others for, whether it's local, state, or federal funding. And that's how we got to that help fund thing. Yep. Cool, all right. Anyone else? Questions? Anything? Yeah, go ahead.
I have one question. You had mentioned grants a couple of times.
Yeah.
Now, are these grants directly from your company or from other sources and they're part of like an application package?
Yeah, so we would apply, if the customer qualifies, we would apply for the grant and add it to the mortgage process. So the Bank of Dallas, this particular bank, gets a federal grant, it's $8 million. They have partner banks, and whatever the details of that partnership, I don't know, that's beyond my pay grade. But I do know that at the beginning of the year, they said, hey, you have $750,000 to deploy at $20,000 a piece as a grant. And when that runs out, it runs out. But come May, you get another $750,000. And that's new this year because last year what they did is they gave us like $1 million, I think, or $2 million at the beginning of the year. And when it got used up, it got used up. And so you've got some people that weren't ready to buy until the end of the year. So now we're getting it in a quarterly tranche. And that was actually us that said, hey, it would be great if this thing would not dragged out, but spread out over the whole course of the whole year because, why are you any different that's gonna buy a home in December than you're gonna buy a home in January?
But the grant would always be attached to an application for money?
Yeah.
For loan, okay.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Anything? Okay, I'm sure there'll be other questions later, but let me put my cards back there so maybe anyone needs to grow it. I'll stay the whole time.
All right, thanks, Jose. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
I need to come get this again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so that wraps up our new business items. So moving into old business.
Hi.
Hello.
Julia Baltus, CRA Specialist. I'm just reporting on grant numbers today. For our North Greenwood commercial grant, we actually hope to bring forward a property owner. It's a partnership for 1215 North Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Our CRA meeting date is going to be March 31st, 2025 at 1 p.m. The location is going to be at the Clearwater Main Library, which is 100 North Osceola Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, 33755. Currently, we have 3 approved commercial grants totaling $225,000. That is it for commercial. For residential, we have 12 approved applications since November of 2024. We currently have 15 applications that are pending. For the approved amount, our current funding total is $191,414.05. And we allotted $400,000, but with that $191,000, the remaining funds that we have available is $208,585.95. So that's just kind of our reporting. And just for the record as well, I do have a new office phone number that I just wanted to mention and put that out there because I know a lot of the residents or applicants have been trying to get a hold of my office. Unfortunately, it's no longer in service. I worked with IT and I do have a new office number. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So that completes old business. So moving on to our director's report.
I have no items.
No items? Awesome. So we're moving on. Board members to be heard. So I do want to kick this off. Definitely appreciate your presentation, Dylan, Jose. Thank you for yours as well. I feel that this is super timely. As I was telling Ann before the meeting started, there are a couple things that I'm hyper aware of, and I want to be sure that we as a community are also very aware of it. As I was going through the plan, one of the things that really stood out to me is that approximately 35% of all residential properties in the CRA are owner occupied. So that means over half of the people in our community are currently renting. And one of the reasons why that's so important to me is, if you're renting, you have less control. And there are a lot of amazing things that we would love to do with our CRA, and there are a lot of amazing things that we can do with our CRA. But I'm hyper aware that the more that we do, the more attention it's going to attract, right? And the more attention that it's going to attract, and let's be honest, we are in a prime real estate location. There are a lot of people that would love to be minutes from Clearwater Beach, minutes from downtown Dunedin, and even some of the things that that are starting to happen in downtown Clearwater. So, with that happening, money talks, and if the people that own aren't here and they get the right number, there's a pretty solid chance they might sell. And if they sell, the people that are here, it's reasonable to assume that they're going to get pushed out, and that is the last thing that I would like to see. So again, it's just things that are rolling around in my mind, and also I have some contacts in other parts of the state that are involved in county commission, CRAs in their areas, and they say that they've experienced some things that it's like the chicken or the egg, right? So you want to have great development, but you also want to keep the people that are in place. But in order to keep the people that are in place, you got to be sure you have great programs to help keep them there, right? So again, presentations are super timely, and I hope that this can continue to generate some ideas of programming that we can create to help make sure that we're keeping people in the community, so that as we continue to develop from a business commercial side as well, that no matter who comes to the community and how much fun they have, they're not going to be able to just push people out. Like that's super important to me. There was another point I was going to make and it just slipped my mind. So it'll come back to me. If so, before the end of the meeting, I'll bring it up. But if not, yeah, anything else?
No, I'm good.
You're
I'll
good?
go next.
Okay, go for
I'll
it.
just say, I concur. And I will say this, I am really just happy to say, being a part of the coalition, as I do serve in the capacity representing the coalition, some of the very things that we talked about to avoid what you're saying, that we've worked really hard and diligently. And I want to thank not only our CRA department as how they really handle some of the grants and making sure the information gets out, and people on our team like Madra, who has been very hands-on, just making sure people know what's out there, urging them not to fall vulnerable to those things. And people, we call them property predators, is what we call them. And so we sent out the property angels some years back, helping to spread the word about why they should not sell their property, and urging them. And even if they had issues or concerns in certain areas, we gave them information as to where they could connect with us to help us connect them with where they needed to go so they could avoid that. So again, thank you. That's great. We're on the same page. Want to make sure that we do everything we can. And you're right. And this, the fact that we are a waterfront property, that that's been on the radar for a long time. So,
Absolutely.
so it's about helping people to stay in their homes and keeping those homes rehabs and the roofs stayed on and all the other things that go with that. So yes,
Absolutely.
I concur.
Awesome. So the one thing that slipped my mind just came back to me. Again, just thinking about it from a business perspective, right? A business cannot be successful without ongoing revenue, right? So when I'm thinking about the CRA, there's a lens that I see the CRA as our community business, right? And we've been super fortunate to have the initial dollars that were provided to us as a CRA that we can utilize for the community as we see fit, right? But at some point, that money is going to run out, and we're going to need to rely on that tax revenue to come in, right? And truthfully, just as I'm looking through it, it's not going to be, excuse my language, it's not going to be a hell of a lot of money, right? So we have to figure out ways to help generate more revenue down the road, so that way we can continue to do the things that we would like to do for our community. So again, it's in my mind. So if it's in my mind, I want to share it with everyone so that we can all be thinking about it together as far as, what opportunities are out there that we can utilize to create more ways to attract more businesses and other entities that will help contribute to that tax base to help provide us with more money down the road as we continue to grow. That's it. That's all I have. And you all are good?
Yeah, good.
Oh, perfect. All right, well, if there is nothing else, 6:31, meeting adjourned.
Thank you. All right.
Awesome, thank you.
It's on our agenda that I did. It's June 4th. Yeah. So that's a Wednesday, right?
Yes.
That is a Wednesday. So in other words, go back to what our original date was and time? Because I think we set those out in the beginning.
Yes, so the meetings were originally set for the first Wednesday of the quarter month. So
Okay.
June 4th at 5:30, September 3rd at 5:30, December 3rd at 5:30.
We had 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30.
Also,
Does the agenda say 6:30?
That's the first one.
The first one was at 6 p.m. So the one that we held in December was at 6 p.m. And I think that was a time change request. But when we originally set it was the first Wednesday of the quarter month at 5:30.
So I'm good to get back on track with that.
Also, you guys can visit myclearwatercra.com, go to the North Greenwood page, and you can get the schedule, the official schedule from there as well.
Okay,
And that's where that was on the
Yeah.
page.
okay. Awesome, thank you for that.
We'll be back at that location.
Back
right?
at the.
Yes.
No,
at
I
the-
just want to
at the
make sure
rec,
so we
yeah.
all, yeah, 'cause I know some.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, that's it?
Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you.